What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Lions video. Now, over the past couple of days, we have talked about a couple of undrafted free agent players that may make the roster in wide receiver Sage Surratt, as well as wide receiver Jonathan Adams Jr. Now, while both of those players are very good members of this UDA class, they are not the only two members of the undrafted free agency that may end up having a roster spot for the Detroit Lions. Another player that I believe will have a chance to compete for a roster spot, and a guy that I actually think will earn a roster spot by the end of training camp and by the end of the preseason, is former Arkansas running back Rakeem Boyd. Now, before we talk about Rakeem Boyd, his strengths and weaknesses, what he brings to the Detroit Lions, and why he may just steal a roster spot on this Lions team, if you're new to the channel and you're enjoying the content, please consider liking the videos and subscribing to the channel. It takes just 2 seconds out of your day to do so. It's quick, free, and easy, and you'd be helping the channel out more than you could possibly know. So if you could do that, take those 2 seconds to like and subscribe. I'd be greatly appreciative for it. However, with all that being said, and without any further ado, let's get right into talking about Rakeem, the Dream Boyd, running back out of Arkansas. Now, Rakeem Boyd played 3 years of SEC play as he was a 3-year running back for the Arkansas Razorbacks. In his time at Arkansas, he played in 30 SEC games, having 389 carries for 2,176 yards and 13 touchdowns on the ground. Now, last year he did have a down season. Last year was not his best season of SEC play. However, the year prior to that, in 2019, Rakeem Boyd played in 12 games for the Razorbacks, having 184 carries, turning that into 1,133 yards and 8 touchdowns, while averaging 6.2 yards per carry. Now, I will say Rakeem Boyd is very, very inconsistent. There are some games where he looks like the best football player on the field, and there are some games where he just simply disappears, where he simply is not out. He's simply just not the same player that you may have saw the week before or 2 weeks before. However, when he is on, when he is having a good day, Rakeem Boyd is one of the best football players that you are going to see. In his first ever game versus Alabama, before he was even 100%, he went for 15 carries for 102 yards. And in the second game he played versus Alabama, which was last year, he did have 100 scrimmage yards as well. Last year versus a top-ranked Texas A&M team, he also had 18 carries for 100 yards. And there are several other games versus top competition where he had very, very successful days. Now, the one thing you may say about Rakeem Boyd, the one thing you may look at and say, that's kind of a question mark. This guy is not really the NFL athlete. This guy's not really the guy we want in Detroit, would be his testing numbers. He did not test particularly well at the Arkansas Pro Day. He did not look fast. He did not look super explosive. He just didn't look like an NFL caliber athlete, and his numbers are going to show that. However, if you watch his tape, if you watch him at Arkansas, the testing numbers and the tape don't really match up. I mean, there was a lot of runs where, Rakeem Boyd broke off a long touchdown. I mean, he had several long touchdowns versus a lot of different teams. He had a 69-yard touchdown versus Ole Miss. He had a 76-yard breakaway against Western Kentucky. He scored a 74-yard touchdown versus Kentucky. He had a 59-yard touchdown versus Colorado State, and in the same Western Kentucky game, rushed for another 86-yard touchdown. So, I mean, he does have the explosiveness. I mean, you saw it at the college level. He did have the explosiveness, did have the speed and the burst to break away for long touchdown runs, which is why I think the testing numbers don't really correlate with what you're going to see on the field. Rakeem Boyd is a lot better. He is a lot faster, is a lot more explosive than his testing numbers would insinuate. And if you watch the tape, if you watch really any game of his college career, you're going to see that he is a guy that can break away. You're going to see that he is a guy that has the potential for a lot of big runs and is a guy that can be a really useful player in the Detroit Lions backfield. Now, another thing on top of that about Rakeem Boyd is that he is a very solid pass protector. He's not as good as Kerryon Johnson, although Kerryon Johnson is one of the best pass protecting backs in football. He's not quite on that level. However, Rakeem Boyd is really solid at pass protection, and And with the Detroit Lions just releasing Kerryon Johnson, they are going to need that running back that can be explosive, that can get some carries here and there, but a running back that can also come in on long down situations, be a release valve for the offense, but also be able to pick up a blitzing linebacker, a blitzing safety, or maybe just hit a chip on the edge to make sure that edge rusher can't get to Jared Goff. Pass protection, I think, is a very underrated skill set for NFL running backs. It's a skill set that, of course, is very undervalued because it's not what's going to show up on the stat sheet, it's not what's going to show up on the highlights, but it's going to result in wins. If your running backs can block for you, if your running backs can be good pass protectors and give your quarterback that extra second, that can be the difference between a sack and a touchdown. That can be the difference between a touchdown and a turnover, is that half a second that your running back is going to allow because he is a solid pass protector. I don't think the Detroit Lions cut Kerryon Johnson if they don't have a plan for a pass protecting back. As I said, Kerryon Johnson is one of the best, if not the best, pass protecting running back in the entirety of the NFL. And that, although it's not necessarily the flashiest title, although it might not necessarily be something that, you're going to go home and brag about, like, oh, we have the best pass protecting running back in the NFL, that is a skill set that is important to the Detroit Lions. And I don't think Brad Holmes gets rid of that skill set unless he feels comfortable with a guy that he brought in. Maybe that's Jamal Williams, maybe that is Rakeem Boyd, or maybe that is another guy that we have yet to see on the roster. So, I will say he does have that ability as well, does have that pass protecting ability to, kind of stay in and just be a good pass protector, pick up a blitzing linebacker, or pick up a blitzing safety, as I said, which could be detrimental to a drive or a pass or just even an individual play. I do think that Rakeem Boyd could take Kerryon Johnson's job. I kind of shadowed on this a little bit just a minute ago, but as I said, he is a really good pass protecting back, and that was kind of Kerryon Johnson's primary use a season ago. He was used on screens a little bit, he was used as a running back a little bit, but I feel like primarily he was used as a pass protector. He was used as an extra blocker to pick up linebackers, to pick up safeties, to give Matthew Stafford that little bit of extra time in the pocket to make the correct read and make the correct throw. So I think from that standpoint, I think Rakeem Boyd can take over that role, and I think you're going to see Rakeem Boyd on the field more than you might think from a UDFA free agent running back, especially one that isn't really looked at as being one of the top UDFA running backs in the draft class, and isn't a guy that's really being hyped up to be anything special in the NFL. Rakeem Boyd can take Kerryon Johnson's role. I think that him and Jamar Jefferson are going to kind of split that Kerryon Johnson role. I think you're going to see Jamar Jefferson get far more carries because I think he's a lot more consistent. I think he's a little bit better. But as I said, Rakeem Boyd, with his pass blocking ability, with his ability to catch the football out of the backfield, and just in general, his ability to just get big chunk plays in the rushing attack, does give him a spot on the football team. As I said, he's a guy that's going to slash for 6 or 7 yards a run, and he may not do that every time, but if you give him the ball 10 times a game, 3, 4, maybe even 5 of those runs are going to go for 6, 7 yard gains. And although he's not going to be the most consistent player on the field, he's not going to be a guy that's going to come in day one and be your starting running back, he is a guy that can contribute early. So although Rakeem Boyd is an undrafted free agent, although he is a player that is not going to get a lot of playing time early, I think he is a running back and is a player that you could see make the roster. He's fought through adversity pretty much his whole footballing career. He originally was a top-rated prospect coming out of high school, went there, didn't really work out, had to go back to JUCO, fight his way back through there, and made it back to Arkansas. Arkansas wasn't really a great footballing school over the past couple of years, so from that standpoint, he's had to fight through adversity, and now, being an undrafted free agent, he's in a situation yet again where he has to beat the odds. So if you're going to bet against somebody, don't bet against Rakeem Boyd, because more likely than not, Rakeem Boyd is going to fight, he's going to scratch, he's going to claw, and he's going to find a way to make it onto the Detroit Lions roster. Now, as far as projections, I think Rakeem Boyd is going to make it as our running back 4. I don't see him making it much higher than that. I definitely don't see him beating out DeAndre Swift. I definitely don't see him beating out Jamal Williams. And although I think it's possible, I think that it's very much less likely that he beats out Jamar Jefferson as well. But as I said, they did just release Kerryon Johnson. The Lions are kind of shaking up that running back room a little bit. So a guy like Rakeem Boyd, a slasher, a guy that can go up the middle, a guy that can churn out 6, 7 yards a couple times a game, could be a valuable valuable asset for the Detroit Lions. Honestly, I don't see him not making the team. I don't see a scenario unless he looks really, really bad, unless in the preseason he has a really bad fumbling problem or just doesn't look like the same guy at Arkansas. I have a hard time feeling, and I have a hard time seeing him not being in a Detroit Lions uniform come September. So with that being said, that is all I have for you guys today. Let me know what you guys think about Rakeem Boyd down in the comments below. This was one of my favorite free agents. This is the guy that, of course, I've kept an eye on ever since Last Chance U. It's been a player that I have kept an eye on ever since he committed to Arkansas out of JUCO, and it is a guy that I am very excited for the Detroit Lions to have in their training camp. So with that being said, that is all I have for you guys today. Let me know what you guys think about Rakeem Boyd. Do you like the pickup? Do you like the signing? Do you think he has a chance to make the roster? And if he does, what would you expect out of him in his rookie season and beyond? But with all that being said, that's all I got for you guys today. Thank you all so very much for watching the video. And until next time, and as always, go Lions!